of words about Hitachi. I mean, a lot of people know Hitachi, but then when you ask someone, what does Hitachi actually do? So, when I've gone to India, they say, you make air conditioners. For other parts of the world, they say, you make hi-fis and televisions. We also make trains, bullet trains, nuclear power stations, but we are also one of the top 10 technology companies in the world with 112 years of experience in this space, and specifically in the data space for the last 60 years. Today, we are a full stack organization with an infrastructure business, a software business, and at the end of the day, a services business that's about 150,000 strong, focused on everything from data engineering to cloud modernization, application modernization, and beyond. So, today's kind of presentation is kind of broken up into two parts. One small part, a little bit about cloud transformation, and the reason why we've put the cloud transformation story here is if we look at any modern data transformation that's happening today, you can't see those transformations happening in isolation from a cloud modernization transformation within organizations. And we will get into the details of how they're interlinked and why it makes sense to do those things together. But if we look at where organizations are faltering today in terms of their cloud journey, at the end of the day, a large part of that is down to the complexity, it's down to the cost, it's down to the availability of the right people, and it's also down to the right planning in place to be able to roll out this kind of a cloud journey. Now, of course, we can talk about all these journeys, etc., but what we thought would be most relevant is get Marek to give his view on how Hitachi Vantara, along with Raiffeisen Bank, actually rolled out their cloud transformation journey. So over to you, Marek.
Good, so let me start maybe very shortly about what is Raiffeisen Bank International, or in short, RBI. I would start with following Suranjan, that we are basically a data company, because nowadays every financial institution is in a nutshell a data company, given the amount of data which we produce, process, and which we use for our processes. But in a very short, we are international banking group, one of the biggest or the biggest financial institution in the Central Europe, covering the 10 markets with around 20 million clients. We operate on all of the markets with the full universal banking setup, so regardless the market is big or small, we have the fully fledged universal bank in there. And one important also thing to mention, head office is in a great city of Vienna. It's a really nice place, famous from Beethoven and Mozart. Wiener Schnitzel with Kartoffel salad. And maybe you don't know that the Vienna is also the biggest wine producing city in the world, which also is not mentioned by accident when you run the IT and data transformation in the banking environment. This actually can help you from time to time. But going into the details, I can definitely subscribe to all the challenges which Suranjan have mentioned in terms of our cloud journey. So we face it exactly the same. We face the issues with the original business cases, especially on the small scale and the singular workloads being put to the cloud. We knew from the beginning that in terms of the cloud transformation, we will not fail because of the poor engineering or architecture, but because of the regulatory and eventually compliance issues, which may be an obstacle in our environment. We definitely knew that in order to reduce the complexity with cloud, we need to increase the complexity, building a lot of platforms and building the landing zones for the cloud workload. So looking from this perspective, this was our challenge. And how we approach it, actually 2 years ago, we have defined the strategy and we decided let's go big. So if we fail, let's fail big. But if we succeed, this will really make some difference for the organization. We have defined a new strategy, which was simple document, couple of pages, but very important around the OKRs, concrete results which we want to achieve and the concrete business objectives which we wanted to achieve, understandable for the executive level, engineering level, and understandable to all our 11 regulators, which we had to convince that we are taking this serious. And this was the goals which we given to ourselves, 50% of the technology in cloud in 2 years across 10 markets, 80% in 4 years. And one thing we couldn't tackle on our own was the scale and availability of the resources and the talent which we had to engage. And then this was very important for us to have the big, reliable partner who can help us in this journey, and this was Hitachi Vantara, who we work with in this entire journey until today. How we do it would be a separate session on a separate conference, but I simply wanted very quickly to mention where we are. So after 2 years, we are where we basically wanted to be. In 2 years, almost half of the technology across the group is already in cloud, even though in 3 countries, in Hungary, Bosnia, and Czechia, we had to start somehow delayed. We have lift and shifted one bank completely to the cloud in Ukraine, which was a proof that cloud is not only performant and cost-efficient environment, but also extremely resilient also to external, I would say, turbulences. And very important, we have reimagined a lot of applications. We trained a lot of people. We have somehow broken a vicious cycle how to make people educated in cloud, not on the e-learning platform, but actually hands-on in terms of refactoring of the workloads. How we measure today the success is not by the percentage, but what we actually enable. And we enable a lot of business innovation. We have built our Raiffeisen Digital Bank, which operates currently in CE, completely on the cloud, with only native cloud environments in the subject of couple of months. We enable the agile engineering, a lot of automation, also using LLMs in the engineering processes. From more boring stuff, we also start the cloudification of our core environment. Who works in banking know that this is this part which you keep hidden and don't touch to not break it, but we also start to cloudify, and we invest in our technology centers. But for me, the most important, as I'm also responsible for the data, that we enable the data journey. And in the field of data, there is a lot of going on. So Suranjan, you know, your perspective on this topic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And most of you in this room probably are coming from the days of good old relational databases, going into operational data stores, data warehouses, data lakes, data oceans, and of course now we're hearing about data meshes. And one of the interesting things which we'll go into in a moment around data meshes is the fact that it's not necessarily a technology paradigm, it's not an engineering challenge per se. Data mesh is actually an organizational paradigm. We'll go into more details of that as we go through the real example of how Raiffeisen Bank actually rolled out its data mesh. But I think that's a core fundamental there. And being able to roll out a data mesh in a cloud paradigm, I think it's kind of a marriage made in heaven, because the agility that you get with a cloud paradigm and the things that you can roll out really, really quickly, you can templatize some of those things and roll it out across the organization, gives you a different level of speed altogether, I think. And just in case, by the way, if you're wondering why we're sticking close to each other, unfortunately, like yourselves, we don't have the headphones, so even I can't hear what he's saying here. So
we feel a little bit like on Teams, right?
But yeah, back to you. Yeah, and again, if we kind of just went back for a second just to summarize Marek's cloud journey, at the end of the day, in order for any large cloud transformation to be successful, it's all about having the right strategic assessment and planning in place. It's about having the right cost and financial structure behind it, having the right team and the right level of talent and people to actually scale up your ambitions, and at the same time also realize that you will probably not get one organization or one partner to actually be able to do everything end to end. So the ecosystem mentality, having an ecosystem of partners, is today a reality in terms of rolling out a large cloud program. So switching over and pivoting into the kind of the core topic of this morning, which is around the data mesh and the data mesh paradigm. So again, as I said, for Hitachi, data is in our DNA. We've been in the data business for over 60 years now. We, on the infrastructure side, we build one of the most reliable data infrastructures, data storage hardwares out there in the market today. But fortunately or unfortunately, I come from a part of an organization which is focused around enabling our customers manage their data end to end. It could be on our hardware, but it could be on any hardware, it could be on the cloud as well. And this is where I think Hitachi adds a lot of value on your end-to-end data management journey. I'll just talk about 3 very quick examples here. One of them shown on the screen, which is around a logistics company based in America, where by delivering their data mesh and enabling their AI management modules, we have now been able to actually reduce their overall repair times by 50%, which has equated to a savings of over $15 million a year. Again, it's very important to kind of equate those activities to real business numbers at the end, because outcomes are important. The second example I'll talk about is actually a real example from the Hitachi world, which is around Hitachi Rail. We manufacture trains around the world, and through our data analytics systems, we are tracking thousands of data points from those trains in real time and predicting any malfunction that could happen on those trains ahead of those malfunctions happening, and effectively stopping them. So that's, if you think about that, that's a massive, huge scale, ultra low latency analytics paradigm that we've built for our own organization. And the third, of course, is there's a completely different kind of end of the spectrum, Disney. So around the Disney theme parks around the world, by bringing in a combination of our IoT technologies and our data management capabilities, we are pulling information from all their rides, so thousands of data points from their rides in real time, to ensure not just customer satisfaction, but the safety of all their visitors throughout their entertainment parks. But having said that, you're in the world of banking. I mean, we're talking about entertainment parks, logistics, trains. How different is the world of banking from that?
Yeah, I love this example of Disney. I spent a lot with Suranjan to understand what they did for Disney, and this is truly amazing. I like it because it like also improve my mood, yeah? Because transforming the data in banking industry is neither a Disney story nor walk in the park. So looking from this perspective, we face a lot of challenges, obviously. And I would say we tick all the boxes. So when you think what we can see as a challenge, we have it. Definitely, we work with a lot of legacy, and a lot of legacy underlying our data architecture and data infrastructure. We are slow to deliver, and that access to data, time to data is still slow in the organization. The same is with the data quality. So these were our main and are our main challenges, and this is not surprising. The data architectures and infrastructures of the banks or financial institutions were built over the last 20 years or so, and with the completely different purpose, with the purpose for the risk management, finance management, regulatory reporting, integrated reporting, you name it, but not for the real-time business customer edge, let's say, use cases. And of course, with a lot of powder and the lipstick, which you can put on top with the new toys, with the abstraction layers, with the ODSs somewhere next to your core infrastructure, you can cheat for some period of time, but you cannot do it permanently. So looking from this perspective, this requires complete, let's say, I would say, restructuring in terms of the technology which we are using, and we understood it on the way. One of the additional motivators was also the AI. There is a huge boom on AI, so we couldn't not mention AI also on this session. But what I also repeat to the board, with the data architecture infrastructure which we have, you cannot do, or no AI will help you, and you cannot put any good or build any good AI on top of the data which we have. Even though I know that there is certain executive kind of misunderstanding that AI can do absolutely everything, even fix the data quality problem for AI, which I don't know. Maybe someone will surprise me that this is possible. But actually, what we tried to do, we said, okay, then we need to strangler. We need to strangler from our data pipelines. We need to strangler from the existing architectures of data, and we need to reinvent the data and rebuild the data for the concrete use cases in a data mesh environment. We started right now, and I have a lot of questions, which people saying, but why the group haven't started this already 5 years ago? The truth is, a lot of capabilities which are needed for such a transformation was built within the last 5 years. The entire agility and agile setup, real-time data, the streaming capabilities, for example, platforms, but also the cloud capabilities were built in the subject of the last year. So looking from this perspective, this was, I would say, underlying, fundamental to successful implementation of the data mesh. Where we focused was first to get out from the one domain and one data models for the entire bank, to go into the domains and to have the domain-specific data models, taxonomies, and domain-specific data products. Second point is about the governance. The data governance is a big thing, but nowadays what we required, or what was required from our perspective to do, was to have it federated, so distributed in the organization, but even more important, automated, algorithmic. It's a hell of work with the lawyers, how to translate the regulatory environment into the algorithm. And this is somewhere where not only the IT and business need to work, IT and lawyers need to work. This is the real challenge in this world, but we are currently, especially for the cross-border data access, we try to fix it also that with the one click of the button, I can get the data which I need for my use case. Then the decentralization, but very importantly with the self-service. So data also are accessible through the platform, on the platform, via the self-service. No manual interventions on the way. Treated as a product, and looking from this perspective, product which means it's really productized with all the descriptions, all the metadata, looking from the technical perspective, business perspective, with all the information which are being required through SLAs, through contracting, through pricing for the data, which is also a new concept. If you need and you want a high quality data, you also pay for the quality data, and everything of this has to be platformized. Yeah. So this is our last year of the effort, and you could still question, so why we started with the cloud, why we talk about the data mesh, and how these two things are going together. This is how we built our data products. First point, as you remember, we have already half of our technology, half of our applications, application-related databases already in the cloud. Within the next 2 years, this will be up to 80% or more, which means all the business-related data will sit on cloud already. This is the starting point. First, we make this data available through the modern interfaces, real-time streaming, RESTful APIs, any other modern way of transferring the data, for which we use the cloud-based platforms, cloud-based offerings. Then all the data is cataloged in the cloud-based data catalog, and we have built the data marketplace layer on top of catalog, because the catalog is very good for people who run the catalog, but no one from the business even knows how to browse the catalog. Yeah, so we needed to build a layer which is the how to automate and how to create a modern user interface in terms of the data, and we build it natively in the cloud. And then when someone decides, I would like to shop particular data, I would like to build my use case, this use case is being built via virtualization or on the data lakehouse platform, so the data is immediately available on the platform which are operating on cloud. And then the question, could you do all of this on-prem? You could. The question would be why, yeah? Why to do it? But looking from this perspective, of course, what we get is a speed, flexibility, access to the modern technologies, and I would say much faster, let's say, pace in terms of the building of our data products. And now, you could ask what we did so far, and we started to build this. Of course, at the beginning, the data mesh was a kind of complete buzz. No one understood what it is. We started with the 4 pilots across 4 business lines, which are in the on the group level. These 4 pilots resulted with 3 data products, and 2 of these data products were consumed. And you could think this is completely unimpressive. I would be surprised if you stand up and leave. But what was the important thing? We started small, but this was education. Within the first data products which were built in the organization, we have defined all the processes, standards, templates. We have codified everything, including the predefined architecture. So looking from this perspective, we have created the entire, also with the automated governance, platform, self-service, access, and so on. We have fixed a lot of bottlenecks on the way. Currently, we are working already on the engineering, architecting engineering stage, 14 another data products, and 15 next are in the pipeline. This is only the group level, so the head office level where the aggregated use cases from the entire group are coming. We have onboarded 10 of our network banks, and we have made our data platforms ready not only on the head office level, but also in the multi-tenant environment across the banks which are in our group. Again, very importantly, we have trained a lot of people, because again, this is a people journey, exactly the same as with the cloud. No one can define the data mesh for you, but also no one can engineer the data mesh for you. And this is actually something which you need to build with your own organization. Couple of lessons learned, and again, being on the engineering stage, there might be expectation we will have the key lesson learned on the engineering, but I would support what Suranjan have said. Engineering modern data on the modern platforms in cloud is actually quite easy. I mean, this requires a lot of domain understanding and the domain data knowledge, but this is not the biggest challenge. The big challenge is first, there is no like one data mesh that you take the one book of the data mesh and you apply it to the organization, nothing like this. You need to find your own way. What will be the meaningful for your organization? But also looking from this perspective, you need to find the good purpose, the good business use cases which are actually consuming the data, important for business. You need to find good business folks, because I think finding good data folks, and I think 20,000 people attending this event shows that there is a lot of people interested in data, but it's much more challenging to have a business people who understand the data, value of data, and productization of data, and all these impediments which are underneath, and then treat it as an enterprise architecture. This is not that you will come with one new platform and you will on this platform cook 100 data products. When I hear such use cases, then I think we have a big misunderstanding of what this platform is, and we have the big misunderstanding what data product is, and what does it mean to build and manage the high quality data products. So looking from this perspective, I would say my key takeaway or my key lesson learned is that we do not build the data mesh for the data mesh, right? We build a data mesh to have a high quality data for business, to make business, to make money, looking from this perspective. And this would be my perspective.
Yeah, and one thing I would also add is, there's obviously a reason why we're in the data engineering theater today. And yes, data mesh is an organizational paradigm where you're pushing out a lot of the traditional things that you would have probably done everything centrally. You're pushing this out into the domains, into the business domains. However, one thing you'll have to keep in mind is those business domains don't necessarily have the engineering skills to actually do all of those things. And I think one of the things which Marek has done quite successfully with his federated central team is build that center of excellence that allows you to almost loan people or expertise from that central core into those specific business domains. Because you can't just say, you're retail, you're going to give me like a retail data product now which will be absolutely pristine and clean and all that without any enablement in that area. So that enablement, I think, is very core to kind of building on a data mesh methodology, because at the end of the day, a data mesh is not magically taking away all those things which you had to do. You still have to do them, but it's just the focus of who does it where that changes. But I think, in your case, you've done that very well.
This is spot on, yeah. We have built the data mesh team, and we have the delivery managers, architects, and engineers. And then, to be honest, I haven't seen them for a while, yeah? Because they work with the domains, with the business, making a community of practice, because they follow the same standards, the same architecture patterns, the same principles, but that they work with the domains in order that everything what is being built is domain specific and domain consumable. So looking from this perspective, indeed, this is how it works. Our role as IT and data is to enable all of those, to platform, to have the performant platforms and the accessible platform to assure that there is the as a service and self-service environment for this journey. And last but not least, to have all those accessible for the business. And this is maybe a kind of paradigm shift, which is in the end very important. So
excellent. So, well, once again, thank you very much for this session. I mean, at the end of the day, in partnership with RBI, and probably 44 of the top 50 banks in the world today are working with Hitachi. Some of the largest healthcare organizations today are working with Hitachi. So if you do have a problem, a data problem, whether it's a small data problem or a big data problem, we're at booth number 600, which is kind of right at the entrance out there. If you have more questions, I think we probably have some time for questions. Again, question to the moderator here. How much time do we have left on the session?
4 minutes.
Probably about four minutes, okay.
So we can take
so in that case, we can take some questions, but feel free to come and join us here. Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah. So the question was about the slide with the evolution from the data warehouse through the data lake house, data mesh. and how this works. Yeah, uh, speaking very openly, in the bank we have it all, right? So we tick all the boxes in terms of any data technology. So we have the warehousing, we have the data lake, we have the data lake house as now both data product and analytical platform. What we need to assure right now that they are interoperable, this is the first thing. Second point, that they work in the low latency environment. So looking from this perspective, also we are now pushing our data warehouse transformation to the cloud. So we have all the data environments in the cloud, including the data warehouse. This is currently a work in progress. And what is our main now challenge is to make sure that all these things are interoperable. Because we have also on top the virtualization platform, data lakehouse is also on top of the data lake and data warehouse. And now we are use case by use case and data set by data set defining where this data set will sit, where this data set will be processed, where the data product will sit, and how to consume it. And this is not, I would say, easy equation, unfortunately, but so far we were not decommissioning yet the legacy. We are strangling, and I can tell you, as an example, big use case which we are currently doing is re-architecting, rebuilding the entire integrated reporting interface. Instead of having big monolithic interface for all the financial and risk management data, we are slicing this into the smaller data products, which will be streamed and consumable either together or standalone. So looking from this perspective, when the last piece of it will be developed, then we can decommission what was under. But this is a kind of evolutionary journey.
And I'll further add a little bit to that. I mean, this evolution journey is not necessarily a linear journey. So
not by any means.
Yeah, I mean, we still have a large number of customers who still have data warehouses, and they're still doing pretty okay with data warehouses. But if we look at kind of that evolution, there's a technology evolution, which is kind of moved from data warehouses to data lakes. Cloud is just another platform where you're doing things. And then from data lakes, you see kind of a coming together of the analytical world and the operational world together, where you have the data lakehouse paradigm. These are technology paradigms, whereas data mesh is more of an operational, organizational paradigm, which talks about how you're going to do this within the organization rather than specifically the technology. So, yeah.
Thank you for the question.
Just one quick thing before you all leave. You may have received this on all of your seats. If you fill this up at our booth number 600, you actually have a chance of winning a MetaQuest 2 headset. I think there's a couple of those, and they'll be raffled out at 4 o'clock this afternoon. So all you have to do is kind of fill up your details, just tear off this part and put it in the thingy in our booth. Sorry, there was a question.
So identifying, how did you identify your actual domains and the products associated to those domains?
Good. So again, I can say very shortly, because I think we are slowly kicked out of the stage. There is no one kind of pattern. So what we try to define now, we started with the business lines and how the domains are being defined within the business lines. We take a look on the kind of bounded context of data. So in which bounded context of data, the data are reusable, this forms the domain, and it can be half of a department or 1.5 of the existing departments. But we are actually looking on the actual data usage, not the organizational setup, if this answers in short the question.
And I have a very traditional answer to this question. I mean, if you're from the data world from 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I think this is a revisit to the Ralph Kimball paradigm, where you're looking at the usage of the data first and then figuring out how it gets there. So there's a bit of that coming back as well.
Good. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you.